Pilots are talking. Not publicly, not on record, but in forums, in crew lounges, and in interviews with aviation journalists, they're saying the same thing over and over. There is one category of passenger behavior during takeoff that genuinely rattles them. Not because it's rude, not because it's annoying, because it's dangerous in ways most travelers have no idea about. And the wildest part? Most of the people doing it have flown dozens of times. They consider themselves experienced travelers. They think they know the rules. What they don't know is what those first 8 minutes in the air actually look like from inside the cockpit, and why what you do in your seat during that window matters more than any airline safety video has ever told you. Today, we're going inside that world, what pilots see, what they know, and what they wish every single passenger understood before wheels leave the ground. Here's what most people miss about the takeoff phase. It's not just a dramatic moment for nervous flyers. It is, statistically, the most complex and compressed sequence in commercial aviation. According to Boeing's aviation safety studies, a significant portion of fatal accidents occur during takeoff and initial climb, which together represent less than 2% of total flight time. 2% of the time. A disproportionate slice of risk. And it's during exactly that window that some passengers choose to do things that make pilots genuinely grip the controls a little tighter. Let's start with the one that surprises people most. You've heard 1,000 times that you need to put your phone on airplane mode. You've also heard 1,000 rumors that it doesn't actually matter. So which is it? Here's the truth that pilots will tell you privately. Individual phones don't crash planes. That much is accurate. But the issue is never really about your one device. It's about electromagnetic interference stacking across a full cabin. When dozens of devices are actively transmitting simultaneously during the critical moments of takeoff, that cumulative signal noise can create subtle distortion in cockpit communication systems. Not catastrophic, but noisy. And in a phase of flight where a pilot needs absolute clarity on radio communications from air traffic control, noisy is not a word you want in the equation. A 2023 report from the FAA's Aviation Rulemaking Advisory Committee confirmed that while modern aircraft shielding has improved dramatically, interference risks from consumer electronics haven't been fully eliminated. They've been managed. The regulation exists because management isn't the same as elimination. So when a pilot says they've been shocked to look back and see half a cabin still scrolling through Instagram during the takeoff roll, what they're reacting to isn't just a broken rule. It's a calculated gamble that passengers are making on their behalf without their consent. You have the power to fix this one in 10 seconds. Airplane mode on before the cabin door closes. Not when the flight attendant walks by. Not when the announcement plays. Before. Now here's one that genuinely frustrates the crews who spend time actually studying accident reports. The seatbelt comes off. The plane is still climbing. You can feel it. That steep angle. That engine noise, that sense of the aircraft still working hard to reach cruising altitude. And somehow, someone in row 14 decides that's the perfect moment to stand up and grab their bag from the overhead bin. Pilots refer to the period between takeoff and 10,000 feet as the sterile cockpit phase. Under FAA Regulation 14 CFR 121.542, non-essential communication in the cockpit is prohibited during this window. It requires that level of focused attention. And yet, in the cabin behind them, turbulence that appears without warning, unexpected wind shear, a sudden course correction, any of these can throw an unbuckled standing passenger into the ceiling, into another passenger, or into a flight attendant trying to do their job. Aviation medical reports document dozens of in-flight injuries every year from exactly this. The plane didn't crash. The flight was technically fine, but someone is now dealing with a concussion or a fractured wrist because they needed their neck pillow 90 seconds after liftoff. Write this down. The seatbelt sign is not a suggestion. It is the cockpit's direct communication with you about the current safety status of the aircraft. When it's on, stay seated. When it goes off, you're cleared. That's the system. It's simple, and it works. But here's where it gets interesting, because not everything that shocks pilots is about rule breaking. Some of it is about the rules passengers don't know exist for their benefit. Window shades. Stay with me here, because this one genuinely surprises people. On most commercial flights, during takeoff and landing, flight attendants will walk the aisle and ask you to open your window shade. Some passengers find this annoying, particularly on early morning flights. Squinting into the sun while half asleep feels like an unnecessary intrusion. But here's what they're not telling you in the safety briefing. Open window shades during takeoff and landing. Allow your eyes to pre-adjust to outside light conditions. If something goes wrong and an evacuation is necessary, passengers who have had their shades closed are temporarily blinded when they open the emergency exit. Those seconds of adjustment cost time. In an evacuation, seconds are the entire margin between outcomes. Beyond that, open shades allow passengers to be extra sets of eyes. In multiple documented cases, passengers looking out of windows have spotted fuel leaks, engine irregularities, or external fires before any instrument registered the issue. Your window is not just a view, it's a monitoring station. Pilots know this. Now you do too. Here's the part that matters most. And this one is less about safety and more about something that quietly drives every pilot and crew member to the edge of their patience. The boarding door is still open. The jetway is still attached. And somehow, a passenger in row 6 has decided to stand in the middle of the aisle, reorganizing their carry-on, conducting a full phone conversation, and creating a human traffic jam that backs up 30 people trying to reach their seats. What most travelers don't realize is that aircraft departure windows are tightly managed by air traffic control slot systems. Miss your slot, and you're not just 5 minutes late. You can be pushed back 30 to 60 minutes while the tower reshuffles your position in the departure sequence. That delay ripples through every connecting flight on the manifest. One person blocking an aisle during boarding has, in documented cases, caused missed connections for passengers in the back of the same plane. Flight crew forums. And yes, they exist. And yes, pilots and attendants are very candid on them. Repeatedly cite aisle blocking as one of the top behaviors that creates systemic delays. You don't have to be a crisis. Simply move to your row, stow your bag, sit down. You've just made the entire operation smoother for everyone. Now pay attention to this, because this final piece is what pilots say they most wish passengers genuinely understood, not as a rule, but as context. Those first 8 minutes after takeoff are unlike any other phase of the flight. The aircraft is transitioning from ground systems to flight systems. The crew is running through checklists that have no room for interruption. Air traffic control is issuing altitude and heading changes in rapid sequence. The pilots are managing engine power, flap retraction sequences, speed targets, and communication simultaneously. It is, in the words of one captain who spoke to an aviation journalist last year, like conducting an orchestra while someone keeps changing the score. What passengers do during that window, the devices they use, whether they stay seated, whether they keep their shades open, whether they let the crew focus, directly affects the quality of attention available in that cockpit. Not through magic, through distraction, through interference, through the cascading effect of a cabin that isn't cooperating with a crew that needs it to. According to the Airline Pilots Association, pilot error accounts for a significant portion of aviation incidents. But pilot error is rarely what it sounds like. It's not usually a mistake. It's usually attention management under compounded pressure. Every unnecessary demand on a crew during takeoff is a weight added to that equation. You now know what the vast majority of passengers never stop to consider, that your behavior in those 8 minutes is part of the flight safety system, not metaphorically. Literally, you are a variable that the crew is silently accounting for, and you have the ability to make that variable a positive one. These aren't secrets airlines are hiding for profit. They're details that got lost somewhere between the 3-minute safety demonstration and the rush to get your earbuds in. The information was always available. Today, you have it in a form you'll actually remember. Airlines aren't going to start announcing this over the PA. The briefings aren't getting longer, so the travelers who understand this are the ones who educated themselves. And now, that includes you. If this gave you something to think about, drop a comment with the one behavior that surprised you most. And if you want more of this, the real operational knowledge that turns an average traveler into someone who genuinely understands how aviation works, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.